Well, hello. Want to thank you for tuning in. I'm having hopefully you're having a good Friday night. Uh, I guess what I really wanted to do was come on here and say thank you because I had an awesome week. I had a really awesome week, and being back on the air in Milwaukee, even if it was on a different radio station than on the one I was on for such a long time. Being back on in Milwaukee was really cool. So I just wanted to come on here and say hello and thank you to people who listened, and either if you listened on 97.3 The Fan for 5 minutes or you listened for 5 days, I appreciate it. Cheers to you. Just got home from work, put the babies to bed, and Lee said, I'm going to run out to the store. And I said, okay, I'll be out here enjoying this beautiful night. And honestly, uh, when Chuck Freeman asked me to come on the game this week with him filling in for Drew and KB, I was changing a diaper. And I looked out at my phone and I said, what in the hell is Chuck Freeman doing texting me? Doesn't happen all that much, but he did. And I said, and I looked down. He said, "Hey, do you want to fill in and do Chuck and Wicket again for a week? Drew and KB are going to take the week off." And I thought, wow, that is really cool. And of course, I had to, in my head, start figuring out how can we possibly pull this off. And the game is owned by iHeart, and iHeart happens to have a cluster of radio stations here in Des Moines. So then I text Lee, my wife, and I said, "You're never going to guess what happened today. Chuck Freeman asked me if I wanted to fill in on 97.3 The Game, one of the sports talk stations in Milwaukee." And she said, well, you should. She was the one out of nowhere, without even talking about it. She said, you should definitely do it. My wife said, you should definitely do it. And tell him yes, and we'll figure everything out as you know, as necessary. And what as necessary means is we have to figure out what can her schedule be, who can come over and watch the babies. We're definitely going to have to get her mother involved, and probably her sister to come over, because the show is a 3 to 6 show, which means I'd have to be out of here by 1:30 to get downtown and get set up by 3 o'clock, or get set up by 2:30, whatever. And the fact that this all came together so quick. I mean, I had a conference call with the program director, Tim Scott, in Milwaukee, and thank you, Tim, for having me. That was very cool. Within a day, like the next afternoon, the three of us were on a phone call together. And it was so, I have to say, it was nice to have somebody say, hey, we want you to fill in and you still matter in Milwaukee. And I think that's really cool. And I just, after spending so much time doing radio in Milwaukee and then being asked to come back and fill in Milwaukee, I was just blown away. And I have to give Tim Scott credit because, iHeart and Entercom are competing for ratings and they're competing for dollars. And the first thing he ever said to me was, hey, if you're uncomfortable because of your relationship with the guys at Entercom's 105.7 and 1250 The Fan, then we can cut this conversation off right now, as long as you're comfortable with coming on an iHeart station. I said, listen, I've got great friends over at the Entercom building. I left Entercom Milwaukee on good terms, and I believe I left Entercom Kansas City on really good terms. I don't think it would be a problem at all. Cheers. Thanks to everybody who's watching, and Jack and Martin and Big Blue is watching, and everybody. Jeff is watching. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope. Chris says, are you moving to Wisconsin? I don't believe that's going to... How could I leave this view? Look at this. This is our back porch. How could I leave this right now? And so within a day and a half, we knew this was going to be happening. And Lee had talked to her mom. And Carol, if you're watching, thank you. And we had gotten the schedule set. And Molly, her sister, my sister-in-law. And I went over, took a tour of the iHeart building, and I got the setup right, and I met their general manager, Joel, who kind of, on the Des Moines end, talked with the Milwaukee PD and kind of, made sure everything was cool, and the engineers, Raleigh in Des Moines, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he was great too. Everything worked out so well. Every day that I got into the studio, everything was technically perfect. And from listening back to it and from some of the feedback we were getting, you couldn't tell that I was in one state and Chuck was in another state. And that, I think, was neat. And I was talking to my mother on my way home, and she said it sounded like you guys didn't even need warm-up time when she was listening to the show via the app, you know, on Monday. And I said it really didn't, because Chuck and I worked together so long, and Chuck and I, you know, worked together pretty well. It really didn't take any time for us to jump right in. I think maybe the first segment of the first show on Monday, maybe it sounded a little bit different because I wasn't saying Sports Radio 105.7 FM The Fan. I wasn't saying 1250. I was saying 97.3 The Game over and over and over and over and over. But it just felt like old times, and it was great. It was great to talk about the Brewers for hours on end. It was great to talk about the Packers and the Bucks and the Badgers and the mix those guys have at that radio station of sports and non-sports, especially right now. Like, it was just so much fun. And I just want to come on here and say thank you to all the parties involved. Thanks to iHeart Des Moines and iHeart Milwaukee, to Tim Scott and to Chuck Freeman, and to everybody here who, at my house, watched the babies. So I was able to go ahead and, you know, be a part of it. It was great. And I have no idea if I'm going to be invited back. Obviously, we have shown that we can make that work. It was relatively easy, as a matter of fact, and it was a blast. So, like I said, if you listen for 5 minutes or you listen for 5 days, I really do appreciate it. It was cool to be doing what we were doing, you know, like we had done for so many years, for over 7 years, I think, when we were on together in Milwaukee. So if you did miss it and you want to check it, I feel like I've posted either on my page or on the podcast page, or just get the iHeartRadio app and you can go back and listen. That'd be cool too if you want to do that. I mean, it's really strange to do a sports talk show with no sports. With none. With no sports. But I think we did a decent job of it. And thanks to Drew and KB for letting me do it, and the producer, Armin, who is... I honestly think that Armin's got a lot of talent. And that dude, he's got a lot going for him. And I feel like he's part of the future of sports talk in Milwaukee. So, thank you again for listening. Thanks for watching this video. I definitely appreciate that as well. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. And who knows, maybe we'll be back on in Milwaukee at some point. You know, I'm a free agent right now. You know, I'm not employed by anybody. I'm kind of a freelancer. So if the guys on back at the old radio station want to do something, or if the game wants to do something, I think there's a third sports talk station in Milwaukee. If you want to, you know, shoot me a text message and you want to have me on, I would be honored. I would be absolutely honored. So thanks again, and I hope you have yourself a great Friday night. I hope you have yourself a great weekend. I'm going to have this beer, enjoy this nice night. All the babies are asleep, and the wife went to the grocery store, so booyah! Thanks again. I'm Mike Wick, and I hope you have yourself a great day. See ya.